Hello and welcome to the first episode of Between Two Wise Trees, a film-related podcast where me and my co-host Daniel talk about all sorts of kinds of movies. Now this is the second episode going up on the channel, but it was the first episode we recorded. It just didn't get around to it until now. But this is even before we have decided on the name, so you will hear us just call it nothing. But this was the first episode where we talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, and Talk to Me. And there are spoilers for both, so keep that in mind. If you haven't seen them, I recommend them both. Please go watch them if you want to. Just please enjoy this episode here, and contact me if you would like to ask any questions or possibly be a guest in the future. All right, thank you, and enjoy.
Oh, there we go. All right, good. Looks like we're working now.
Oh, excellent.
All right, so finally up and running here.
There we go.
Okay, so this is, as I stated, an untitled podcast with Daniel and Adrian, pilot episode. What's going to happen? Who knows? It could be anything. We could talk about anything.
Milking.
We are going to talk about milking, to be fair. So
Yeah.
that's pretty hype, actually. Well, our main two topics for today's podcast here is going to be actually two movies that have just recently released: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, as well as Talk to Me, a new A24 horror film. So we saw both movies in the past couple days, and they are, for all intents and purposes, both really great. I think you would agree.
Oh yeah. I Talk to Me was my favorite of the two, but Ninja Turtles is really good as well.
Yeah, we just got done seeing Ninja Turtles tonight, and we saw Talk to Me a couple days ago. I think Talk to Me is a superior film, the superior film out of the two as well. But we'll get into the details. Obviously, hard to compare because they're two completely different movies, but they were both incredibly entertaining. So I think we'll talk about both here. To start off, since it's the most fresh in our minds, I think we should talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here. Just opening remarks here. I had pretty much no expectations going into this movie because I'm not a fan of the franchise to so to say. But I was pretty optimistic about it because of the style. I had a good idea of what it was going to be like, and it pretty much delivered on that front, I think. Yeah, really just it's the style, like kind of a building off of what Spider-Verse was doing. Really just pushing animation forward, I think is a good way to put it. Ever since Spider-Verse came out, a lot of movies have started to jump on that bandwagon, and I think it's for the better. Any specifics that you want to talk about the film that you thought were interesting or anything like that?
Shoot, hold on. How's my audio, by the way? Just a quick thing.
I can hear you pretty clearly, I think.
Pretty clearly?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Anyway, back to what I was about to say. I think, again, it's like with that film, it's just the main draw to me is the animation. It looks like a, high schooler's textbook, It just looks like high school drawings, and that's like the main thing about it.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying with that. Kind of like how Spider-Verse was mimicking kind of like a comic book art style. I think this movie kind of definitely gives off those vibes of like doodles in your like your textbooks that you'd do and stuff like that, which the whole movie kind of screams that idea because of just the characters themselves are all in that kind of like that age range where they would be doing that kind of thing anyway. So it makes sense. Um, I really I agree. The animation is the biggest draw of the movie, and I think that works because it's already like it's animation obviously in a visual medium. It's already like that's the first thing you're gonna notice when you see trailers for this or anything like that is the animation. It looks amazing. So um, it definitely makes sense to me that they put out of everything they put the most work into that, which again a lot of movies have been doing recently, and I think it's for the better overall because over the past decade or so, I'd say like in the 2010s, animated films got really bland. Everything looks very plasticky, very plain. The animation's always very. It's never cartoon. It wasn't very cartoony for the most part through like the 2010 era. I think with the rise of the minions and
Yeah.
illumination and stuff. So it's cool that with Spider Verse now, I think we're kind of moving back into a more creative era of animation. So I'm really excited about that too.
Yeah. Like I think yeah, they're definitely going a more stylized route, and that's a huge improvement over like I guess one animation studio I think of that I think has the most bland animation possible is like BlueSky. Like none of their stuff to me just looked at like um very stylized. It was all just so plain.
Too soon. Too soon, I think.
Too soon.
I totally agree. I always thought that the Ice Age movies were like it made no sense to me how they could continue to make those movies and then be profitable.
Yeah.
They were such nothing burgers to me. Like I'm probably
Mhm.
liked the first one when I saw it, but other than that, I thought that entire franchise was just a waste of everyone's time. Um,
Yeah.
um, and it is sad to see them go, especially because it seemed like they were on the up and up towards the end of their run there. Because I didn't see Spies in Disguise, but that was their last feature film, and it seemed that people kind of liked that one. It seemed that one wasn't too bad. Um,
Yeah.
and of course, then they were also going to be making Nimona, which got canceled. And I think actually that ended up being for the better because if Disney hadn't liquidized them and had let them make that movie, I think that movie would not have been nearly as good as I thought. I think it is currently. So
Yeah. Um, God, I think I'm trying to think now though, like a good stylized BlueSky movie, and suddenly I thought of the Peanuts movie. That one was like one of the first animated movies that I had seen where I actually like noticed that it had a style, and I don't know. I feel like the Peanuts movie almost kicked off somewhat of a trend too.
I totally agree, and I still stand by the fact that I think that's one of the most faithfully adapted franchises to an animated movie in our modern age like ever. I think that movie
Mhm.
perfectly nails the style of Peanuts. Besides that one pop song that shows up in the middle of the movie for no reason, but
Yeah, that was
yeah.
very
But
disappointing.
other than that, that movie basically just nails everything that Peanuts is, and I think that's probably their best movie overall, just because it so faithfully recreates the style of the franchise, and all the characters
Mhm.
are there's no all the voice actors are children. It just everything works in that movie, I think.
Yeah,
Except for maybe for me, the only parts that felt a little maybe forced or a little bit too over the top were some of like the Snoopy Red Baron sections. I thought they were cute at first,
yeah,
but towards the end, they feel a little bit like they're taking over the plot. Um,
mhm.
but other than that, I do love that movie a lot. But yeah, Blue Sky, all that stuff. I definitely see what you're saying with the stylized kind of look of that movie. So maybe they did leave
Yeah,
one good mark on the animation industry, but other than that, yeah. Um,
yeah,
but back on TMNT here. Um, Other things I really liked about this movie were like kind of like along the lines of well, I think they've reached a happy medium with the voice actors in this movie with having like younger talent voice the main characters, but they were still able to have their, their popular voice, their popular actors in there as well as like a bunch of side characters, and they had a ton of them. I didn't even notice them really until the credits when I started seeing some of the names pop up. I'm like, oh, this person's in this movie. I had no idea, but it was cool that they were there, but they weren't like a feature of the movie. They were just like a part of it. Like I thought that was very organic and well done. I think probably one of the best cast animated movies in quite some time. I'd say.
Yeah, like I think one thing that really works is that everybody who is voice acting is actually playing a character and not just trying to sound like themselves. You know what I mean?
That too, because I didn't even notice some of the people, like other than other than freaking Seth Rogen, who he's Seth Rogen. I mean, Seth Rogen is he's just a meme at this point. Other than him, who was in at the who like kicked off the movie for some reason, don't know why, but other than him, like
That was funny.
I had no idea that the like Salamander character was voiced by Paul Rudd. I could not have told you that was Paul Rudd. Like I had no clue.
Me
Yeah,
either.
and even at the start of the movie with Giancarlo Esposito playing like the doctor guy, I had no idea that was him either. It makes sense in hindsight, but I had no idea that was him at first.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the one that I did know that was the voice actor was Ice Cube's character Superfly. That was the main one. Okay, it's just Ice Cube playing Ice Cube.
I don't know anything about Ice Cube, but I could definitely tell like that was a person I recognized. But I think he kind of fit that character well though. It was definitely Ice Cube being himself, but like I think it works on the character of Superfly. I think it makes him stand out from the rest of them in a way. And kind of puts like automatically just puts him in opposition to everyone else, which I think works in the film's favor in that regard. So yeah, really great cast. I love, especially I think the main thing about this movie that I think is really great, really special, besides the animation, is probably the dynamic between like all the main characters. The main turtles. They really work well off each other, I think.
Yeah, they do a really great job of seeming like believable teenagers this time.
Yeah,
and they're very charming.
Yeah, they really are, and you bring up the point of like being believable teenagers, and I think they are. The theme, the movie wears its themes on its sleeve. They're very poignant. It's about Splinter learning to let go as a parent, and I mean we've seen that trope, that theme played around with tons of times in movies. That's nothing new. But I think they do it pretty well. And for what it is, this is still definitely a movie for kids at the end of the day. Even though I feel like anyone can enjoy this movie. I think pretty much anyone can go into this and enjoy it. But yeah, it definitely is still, geared towards that like kid tween audience at the end of the day. And I think they do a good job with the themes. They do a good job representing the turtles as characters, not just as like, these mutants, but also as teenagers who like as if they were real people. And I think that was done really well. And that's where like I get a little bit like frustrated with like the writing, because I think half of it is really good and really funny. There's a lot of good clips in there, but then you get so many instances of the use of sus and the use of Riz and the use of I was not expecting to hear Riz in this movie. I'm not gonna lie, that was hilarious to me. And
yeah, they said it quite a bit too.
Yeah, they did. It was constant with the one-liners using our very TikToky language. It's equal amounts cringe, but also understandable because of this movie, what this movie is supposed to be. I to an extent I am annoyed by it, but I also think that the film it can get away with it because of what it is, I think. So yeah, it was very hit or miss, especially in it's like the first 10 minutes of the movie that it's the most noticeable, because the plot hasn't really gotten kicked off at that point, and it's just so many pop culture references. They freaking watched Ferris Bueller. It's like, okay, um, it's a little bit overbearing for the first 10 minutes, but it was, I caught everything. It was definitely, very Gen Z, whatever generation we're in now, Gen Alpha or whatever. But
Yeah.
I still had got some enjoyment out of it, especially the Stewie Griffin line. Very excited, very happy to hear Stewie Griffin referenced in this movie. I was not
Yeah, that was
was
funny.
not expecting that at all. There were a lot of moments like that where I guess I didn't go into this movie I expected a lot of like the kind of humor that it had. I expected a lot of it, but also there were a lot of elements about it that I could have not have expected, like Mr. Beast showing up. I'm sure this was known, but I had no idea Mr. Beast was going to be there, so I didn't catch that. The freaking the messed up SpongeBob costume was hilarious to me. Which they
Yeah.
actually play into that a little bit with them, which them playing into it with them thinking that, oh, the turtles are like costumes or whatever. So yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that. But I thought that was kind of funny. There's other elements like that too. Like they just straight up show TikTok at one point. A lot of iPhones and stuff.
Yeah.
Overall, though, that stuff didn't bother. It didn't detract from the film, I think. And it didn't get in the way of the plot or anything, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I just, I was okay with that kind of stuff. Another thing about the movie that, probably the other best part about it is, of course, like the direction and the animation itself. It's just some of the fight sequences are just really incredible. Just I love the way that they play off of their their ninja abilities, but also like are able to work jokes into it a lot of the time. Especially, I think I definitely agree. We talked about earlier after watching the movie that probably the best fight sequences are earlier in the movie. I think the best ones are actually like towards the start, like I'd say like the first act of the movie, like right after they meet April and go beat up a bunch of guys in like a little parking garage. I think that was one of the best, probably one of the best scenes in the movie. Actually, they just squeeze so much detail into the action in that scene.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And also the hallway scene. They had a couple scenes like that, very old boy esque in that sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was
Old boy.
yeah, that was really enjoyable too. I loved that. Just really cool to see them play with like the specific weapons of each of them too, like how like they play with because which one is the one that has the staff? I'm blanking. That's not.
Oh, Donnie.
Yeah, Donatello has the staff. And they make a lot of jokes out of his weapon just being a stick, which for you gamers out there, MatPat actually made a theory about how Donatello's stick is the most powerful weapon out of the four turtles' weapons. So that's ironic at the end of the day. But I don't know. I thought that was funny. But
wait, he did?
Yeah, according to MatPat, take that with a grain of salt. But according to him, the Donatello's staff would be the most dangerous weapon out of the four of them. So,
like, even more than two swords.
Yes, according to him, I'm just telling you, don't shoot the messenger here, unless the messenger is quoting MatPat. Then you can probably shoot the messenger. But yeah, I thought that was funny to mention. But anyway, other things. How do you feel about the music in the movie? I know there was how much pop music was in it and how much was original. I couldn't really tell when I was watching the movie.
About half and half.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I think I actually really like the music. I feel like they were sort of going for like an 80s synth in some scenes. I thought it worked really well. And even the pop songs and all that actually also really added to the tone and did a really good job.
Yeah, I agree. I think the music was all done well. It never got in the way, whereas a lot of other movies currently are using pop music to their disadvantage. And this has been going on now for quite some time, but it's becoming more of an issue now because now we have clashing styles with our, this new Spider-Verse kind of style. Um,
Mhm.
it's getting in the way of other more traditional films, like we've been definitely everyone's mentioned about the Mario movie, the pop music there.
Mhm.
That's very illumination-y. They'll have to get over themselves at some point and realize that it's just not clicking anymore. To use that music. Uh,
I think that's the issue is that they're still making like $1 billion, so they just never will get over
well,
themselves with
I
that
know
kind of stuff.
that's, but the thing is with that movie, that had nothing to do. If that music wouldn't have been in there, it would have changed absolutely nothing because the original score for the movie is so good. Like all of the Mario tracks
Mhm.
remakes are incredible. They didn't need those tracks
Yeah.
in there. I think that's the main complaint about that. And I obviously agree. Um,
Mhm.
Pop music in animated movies never bothers me that much, but I understand why it bothers a lot of other people. And I think it can, again,
Yeah.
like in TMNT, it used it to its advantage because of the style of the film. Um, it
Mhm.
really all depends on the movie, of course, but I think there's in animated movies recently, it's been too much use of the pop music.
Yeah.
Because like the Mario movie, you didn't need to use "Take on Me." That was not necessary at all. Like that makes me
Mhm.
particularly mad because in the scene they used that they're going through like the Donkey Kong Country, and I'm like, they could have put a Donkey Kong Country remix in there, and I would have been so happy. But no, they didn't do that. So
Mhm.
that's a story for another day. That movie's a whole, not a can of worms, more like a factory of worms. Um, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Overall, TMNT was really great. I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it. It's still a kids movie at the end of the day. It's not as good as Spider-Verse or Puss in Boots, I would say. Um,
Mhm.
but it was still really enjoyable. And I feel like this is the kind of movie that how like we're nostalgic for like the SpongeBob movie. I feel like kids in like a couple decades from now are gonna be nostalgic for this movie in the same kind of way. Um,
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
and I think that's a good thing. Um,
Mhm.
I'd rather kid I'd rather kids be nostalgic for this movie in a couple decades than like freaking the Boss Baby or the Minions. So
Yeah.
yeah. So overall, I think that movie was pretty great. I might watch it again and when it comes out on streaming or something because I feel like there's a lot of again a lot of these new movies. There's so much detail in there. Uh, so much
Mhm.
cool stuff like that. Um, so I'll
Yeah.
probably watch it again eventually here. But I'm also interested though. Before we move on, real quick, has Nickelodeon Studios Animation like ever done any other feature films like this? Like, do they make a lot?
Rango.
Oh, well, I know Rango was, but like, they don't really make that many big like theatrical feature length films, do they? Like anymore? Because this is the first one
Uh,
I've heard of in quite some time.
they did the Sponge Out of Water movie as well.
Well, I know that though. I know
Didn't
this, but like obviously the ones you expect, like we know the Paw
they?
Patrols and the SpongeBob's in this movie, but like other than that, I don't
Yeah.
think they really do anything else. I think Rango was the only original movie they've ever done like that, right?
Um. Yeah. Yeah. I guess you're right.
I
Yeah.
think so, at least.
I. I'm trying to think really hard. I think it might just be Rango,
Yeah,
but I could be
that
wrong.
that that's so crazy to me that they can't kind of just came out of nowhere and dropped that movie and then it was over.
Hmm.
So that little
Yeah.
gem, man, I gotta rewatch that movie. That movie is so good.
I saw it in theaters when it came out.
You
It was such an
you are so
experience.
lucky. I definitely saw it.
I
I
know.
definitely saw it close to release, probably in the same year it came out, but I don't know if I saw it in theaters. But man, it's that movie is a masterpiece in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
It look
fantastic. I
I
also got to
can't believe
rewatch it.
I need to look up the studio who animated it too because for 2009 animated movie, that is insanely cool. Like it
Yeah.
looks so good.
Yeah, no, I think it was
Mm.
2011, but
Yeah, no, you're right. I know.
regardless though, But like regardless though, its animation holds up incredibly well.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. Like that movie came out in 2011. Like that's the same time that like even movies like around that the same time. I think Puss in Boots came out the same year. That movie looks
It did,
severely more flat, or like not even flat, but well, yeah, kind of flat. The animation is just more. It's so much more crisp and raw in Rango. In fact, I don't think I can think of a single animated movie that looks like Rango. Now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, it's very stylized in the best way possible. Like it's incredibly like almost even like photorealistic in some ways, but still incredibly stylized. It just strikes a really unique balance.
It is quite literally the animated Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, even the freaking guy the guy from that movie shows up, doesn't he?
Yeah,
that's right.
Raoul Duke and his
yeah. In the beginning of the movie. I love that little reference there. And then Clint Eastwood is the spirit of the West. That's so awesome. What a cool way to tie those like very Western, very like desert kind of stories and characters into that movie. It was such a cool idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, off of Rango now. We'll talk about Talk to Me, which it did come out last year, right? In 2022 in Australia, I think.
I think it got shown at Sundance. Last year, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it finally had a theatrical release here in the States a couple weeks ago, and wow, it's popping off so hard right now. Like, it's crazy. I'm pretty confident in saying this is probably going to be the best horror film of the year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I doubt anything will come out that tops this.
No, I do too. The only other, in fact, out of all the horror films that have came out this year, I haven't seen a ton because I don't care about the Blumhouse Smile and Megan's shit. I don't give a crap about those movies.
The 3 again.
Of course, yeah. I mean, there's probably gonna be a third movie at some point. It's already got a sequel in the works, so.
That was a painful one to watch.
That movie was popular though. People really liked that. Like.
Yeah, I don't get the hype. Well,
there's just something about the the girl boss element of her, I guess, just slaughtering people. But it's like Annabelle, but like if she was like very woke, or not even woke, but like Visco or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was a goofy movie.
I do not recommend it.
No, I don't care. I don't mess with Blumhouse. I don't mess with really any horror movies that look like. If I see a trailer for a horror movie, I'll pretty much know right off the bat if it's going to be like one of those cash grabby films like Insidious, The Red Door, or something like that. Which I still appreciate Blumhouse for what they do because at least they're all doing original ideas and they're making them on very cheap budgets. So I can still appreciate them even if they're making not good films. I still respect them, and also they're making the FNAF movie, which I will see 1,000 times probably. So that's gonna be the most telling movie of the year, I think.
I think I'm gonna hate it already. Like I can't stand that as a PG-13.
Yeah.
Unless it doesn't pussy out and kill. Like if it kills kids, like I'm gonna laugh, dude. Like I'm gonna have a good time.
Well, the thing about that is, and we'll probably talk about this another time in another episode. We definitely could talk about this for a whole episode. But like the debate on the PG-13 rating, I also do not like it at all. But I completely 100% understand it. Like FNAF is already been geared towards kids like since its inception. It's always been for kids. And like people make excuses about why it shouldn't be like gory or over the top or anything like that. I don't agree with those takes either. If you want really cool, really like gruesome Five Nights at Freddy's stories, there are so many series on the internet, so many on YouTube you can find. And I've seen some ones that are like they really take that source material and run with it with the themes and just like the gruesome nature of it. There's some good ones. There are definitely some good ones. But getting back on track here, we'll talk about FNAF another time. But as I was saying, all the other horror movies that have come out this year, other than this movie, and also Skinamarink, which actually came out last year. But I want to go back and rewatch that movie too, because I think if with a more open mind going back to that one, I'll like that one more as well. But we can go back to that one at some point. But Talk to Me though, um, by the Michael and Danny Filippo. They are incredible. I can't believe this movie is as good as it is. Well, I can.
Yeah.
But it was just I didn't have really going into it. I didn't really know what to expect. Like I knew it was gonna be them, and I knew it was gonna kind of have their general style about it. But I had no idea how much freedom they had with making this movie. So it was cool to see that they basically got to make the movies that they exactly wanted. So, and I think it turned out beautifully.
Yeah.
So it's such an original idea while being like modern, but as well, it still has their style about it. So it's like it's very unique, but it uses everything in the right ways. So it's not like another Blumhouse just like slop thing. Like, oh, movie about people smiling. I'm sure that could be original and creepy. No, yeah, this movie actually goes hard, and it just everything about it just like works for me in a horror movie. I'm pretty particular about what scares me in movies and media and stuff. This movie, it got a couple moments out of me that were I thought pretty disturbing and pretty creepy. But I think movies like Skinamarink probably scare me more because it's more that fear of the unknown. That's just my opinion. But besides the actual horror aspect of it, just the movie itself is just so well made. Like everything from the acting to the writing to the the sound design. Wow, that was so good. That was great.
Yeah, no, that was brutal. Absolutely.
Yeah, brutal. So good. Probably the most interesting part about the movie to me is I watched the Meat Canyon video about him, interviewing them and him talking about that movie. And it's so interesting to see some of the things they had to say about it, like how there's that one scene towards the end of the film, like the third act, where Mia uses the hand again to try and contact Riley. And she ends up getting like pulled into like this afterlife kind of hell world. And that scene, it reminds me of like the cloning scene from Infinity Pool, where like it's just or those kind of scenes in that movie where it's like you don't get to see a lot. And I haven't seen the unrated cut of that movie. I'm sure there's more of that, but like you don't see a ton. It's only about like 10 to 20 seconds of like Mia kind of like getting to see Riley in this like just absolute hellish nightmare. Like it's so hard to describe it even. It just looks just absolutely the most disturbing thing I've seen in a horror movie in a long time. Like
apparently according to that Meat Canyon video, they shot like
it's like 2 minutes.
Like 2 Yeah.
And then the original.
I would love to see an extended cut.
Yes, I want to see that whole scene in its entirety, its brutal entirety, because that would be insane to watch. And I think the biggest part about it too is if it would have been to pretty much any other character, it wouldn't have quite had the same amount of weight. It would have still been horrifying. But the fact that it's just like this 15-year-old kid too, they went so hard with that. Like that's the most brutal part. Because like throughout like the first act of the movie, it's like I kind you know where this is going. You know it's going to end poorly, but I was not expecting it. The true first victim to be like the kid. Like it never even crossed my mind that would happen. But no, and that's probably the most brutal moment of the entire movie is when he uses the hand for the first time and contacts like Mia's dead mom. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy how just messed up they make that kid's face. It's insane. Yeah. Especially like the probably the most disturbing moment of the entire movie is when he tries to rip out his eye. I was like, no, that was
Yeah,
insane.
no, that was hard to watch.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I think yeah, no, the thing with Talk to Me is that I actually found myself really invested in the characters, unlike a lot of other horror films where I just don't care what's going on because I don't really care for the characters. But like Talk to Me, I think the characters' performance and just the writing in general, it's written in such a way where these characters actually seem like people that you know
Hmm.
and like people that like actually seem real and that you kind of actually end up caring
Hmm.
about, and that's what really works with a lot of this violence and just how it's executed. It's really great.
Yeah, it's actually hilarious to me how much better these characters are than pretty much any other modern horror film. Like it
Hmm.
just like when the movie starts off with like all of the very the party elements, the social media aspect of it, I was kind of worried at first, like it was gonna play into that way too much, but that pretty much gets dropped after like
Hmm.
Riley gets messed up. So and before
Yeah.
because before that I was like, oh, these are just gonna be like stupid characters or too focused on they're too hyper focused on their themselves and what they want and stuff like that. But then um later on in the movie, like the first time Riley gets messed up, everyone kind of just immediately just drops that facade and they realize the gravity of the situation. Like it's crazy. It's like a
Hmm.
it's like a switch flips there. And whereas in other horror
Yeah.
movies, like I love the example that Hunter gave in his video, uh, with
Hmm.
the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022.
Yeah.
The freaking streamers on the bus and the Leatherface gets on and he goes, "You're so canceled." It's the funniest line. That is the funniest line in a horror movie probably ever. Like it is so
Yeah, that is.
it is so out of
I gotta
touch.
watch that.
It's
Hmm.
I've watched that movie and it is probably one of the most out of touch movies I've ever seen. And like it's one of those movies too. It's like The Flash for me too, because it's so bad to me that it's good. It's like watching that movie is just a laugh fest. And the best part about that
Hmm.
one too is there are still some pretty good kills and stuff. So it's you. I think you definitely still get some enjoyment out of it, but it is shit. So but
Yeah.
yeah, that line just I always think about that in a horror movie when I see a phone now. Uh, just think of that line. But yeah, they didn't. I'm so glad that they didn't go that route with it. They didn't make the characters very
Hmm.
focused on that. They become their own characters with their own relationships and such. And I think
Yeah.
Mia hold it together so well. I think the actress's name is Sophie Wilde, if I'm correct. Um,
Yeah, I believe that's it.
she is incredible. Such a like she's definitely the center focus of the whole movie, and she pulls it together so well. Um,
Yeah.
she plays the kid. I'm just so impressed with the casting too. Like they were able to get so many just like people from like all Australian too. I assume they all filmed it there too as well. Just um
Yeah.
so crazy. Like there's so much talent all over the world that we don't need to just use Chris Pratt for the 77th time. Like there's talent everywhere, and I think she just really holds the whole thing together really well. She's such a strong
Hmm.
actress and plays Mia as such a relatable character at first. So she starts off as such a sympathetic character, and it's like that
Hmm.
slow, gradual decline of her, like kind of succumbing to like the demons and kind of becoming the villain of the
Hmm.
film towards the end. So towards the end, like such a good way to escalate that. And
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. I don't. There's probably other movies that do that where the hero kind of becomes the villain. That's definitely a trope. But I feel like I don't ever
Yeah.
see that in horror movies because it's always about like the slasher. It's about the villain. It's about the monster. It's about whatever. So to make the
Yeah.
main character kind of fit that role over the course of the movie is such a cool idea to me. Um,
Yeah.
so I really liked how that was played out too. Like probably the biggest oh shit movie, oh shit moment for me is like when her dad is like, like the vision of her dad's trying to get into the room, and then she actually stabs him. Like that was such a
Yeah.
like, and then there's so many of those kind of moments in this movie. It's like, oh shit, like here we go. This is where it goes. This is where it goes
Yeah.
down. So,
Hmm.
man, probably the hardest scene though in the movie is when Riley wakes up for the first time in the hospital and they're like washing him off, and then he just freaks out
Yeah.
and starts. And the sound actually peaks. Like it feels like I just
Hmm.
walked into Oppenheimer again. Like
Yeah.
it peaks in the theater, and like he's just slamming his freaking head against the brick wall. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. To see a horror movie these days do that to a kid is unreal.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I think they need to do that more. Like not just
Hmm.
brutalize kids for no, and that was the other thing is they were very intentional with the moments they chose to be gruesome.
Yeah.
Because they cut down that
Exactly.
2 minute scene because would it be a really awesome 2 minute scene and do I want to see it? Yeah. But for that whole
Mhm.
scene to be in the movie, it definitely would have dragged a little bit and taken a lot of weight away from, the main threat of like Riley being killed. So
Exactly.
so I think they were really, purposeful for how they did that too.
Hmm.
Um I think they also said that there were just a lot of other, more gory moments that they cut down on, and I think that was for the best.
Yeah.
Because it made the moments that it actually happened way more impactful. So,
Hmm.
and I think that was the big part about it. Like this ain't Terrifier 2, so
Yeah. I think there's a scene in Terrifier 2 where Art the Clown could have easily killed this kid, and instead it's just kind of him whipping him with like, and you could tell they would just occasionally put a little bit of blood on him.
mm,
I was like, wow, you really just kind of chickened out, didn't you?
yeah, it's understandable why, but I think we're at a point now with films where it's like, is it really that
Mhm.
crazy? Like, is it really that? Especially like, especially sometimes it's like even an audience wants it. Sometimes it's like, wow, oh no, this kid's in danger. Like, oh no, and then he just gets away. And it's like, oh, well, that was really pointless. Uh,
Yeah, that was one of the biggest complaints with Evil Dead Rise, is that they include a kid in it, and like the kid couldn't have even been in there, but the kid is used. They tried to use the kid for tension, like, oh, this kid's in danger, she's gonna get killed, but it's like, no, she's obviously not gonna get killed. Like, shut up.
yeah, I've never seen the Evil Dead franchise. Need to get into it at some point. I especially want. I really want to
Mhm.
see those first three movies. They seem really fun. Uh,
Oh, they're spectacular. Yeah.
but yeah, Evil Dead Rise. I heard was that one still pretty good though for the most part, or
It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. I think it's very gory, and there's a lot of really great kills and a lot of really great scenes. And from a filmmaking perspective, the movie looks great. Like
yeah,
it's a really like creative movie in that sense. But God, the story gets so stupid
yeah,
sometimes. I swear.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
pretty average for horror movies these days.
Yeah.
Who directed that movie?
Um. God dang it! It was some other director. Lee Cronin. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, I think I've heard of that name before.
He made them another movie called The Hole in the Ground. I
Hmm.
think that was an A24
Oh,
movie. I think.
maybe yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, for the most part, though, horror movies, they're not all that for the most part, and they still make so much money. It's kind of crazy to me, actually. Um,
Yeah.
I won't be surprised. I won't be surprised at all if the Five Nights at Freddy's movie is the highest grossing horror movie of the year and perhaps the decade. Maybe more. Like I
Mhm.
think I don't know if it's going to be good or not. It's probably not going to be a masterpiece. It could possibly not even be that. It could possibly be bad. There's very high probability, in fact. But I think if
Yeah.
you're a fan and you go in with an open minded attitude towards it,
Mhm.
I think fans are going to love this movie. Like I think I'm going to go into
Yeah,
this.
I hope so.
I think I'm going to go into this movie and I'm going to come out the same way I did with Mario, where like I'm a huge super fan of these franchises, but I'm able to
Mhm.
come out of these movies and realize, yeah, they were just okay movies. Um, so it
Yeah.
kind of balances out for me, and I think that's what's going to happen with FNAF too. Um, but
Yeah.
we'll see when again. It's just coming out at the perfect time though. It's been so highly anticipated. It's gonna make millions of dollars. Um,
Yeah, honestly.
Which I think that's a good thing at the end of the day. It exposes more people to the franchise to share in my pain of the lore. So um,
The
it's
lore.
so messy. It's so bad. Imagine if they made a Kingdom Hearts movie at this point. It's like, boom.
Ooh,
Kingdom Hearts, yeah, that would be that's
no.
probably even worse. I don't even like that franchise either. I've tried so many times. Um, but anyway, yeah. So Talk to Me was great. I think there was one other thing I wanted to bring up about it. Um, what was it? Oh, really look probably one of the best endings to a horror movie too. I love the way they wrapped it up.
Yeah,
You can
that was a great
because you can
ending.
kind of predict it coming. Like as soon as she throws herself into the highway and gets like killed. It doesn't explicitly like state that, but you know it. And then just like
Hmm.
the vision of the hand and stuff, I immediately know. And then the best part is it's just like a group of like Hispanic guys too.
Yeah,
that
that was
that was
hilarious.
such a good way to end that movie, man. Um,
Yeah.
and that was the other thing. They talked about this in the interview as well, but like it's so easy for foreign films to get kind of lost in translation, kind of be stuck, um,
Hmm.
like Americans aren't always very open-minded to, to those kind of films. Um, so I
Yeah.
think the Raka Raka Boys did a great job making this movie still very poignant to basically the age group to anyone. Like even though these are all Australians and it takes place in Australia, it could be these
Yeah.
characters could be could live anywhere. It could be anyone. So I think
Hmm.
that really helps to make it give it a wider audience. I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
I really hope this movie makes a lot of money and does really well, and I think it will. Um, it
Hmm.
just feels like, I mean, kind of like the same thing that happened with Skinamarink. I mean, maybe to a lesser extent because that movie was so different for what
Yeah.
theater experiences or movies are normally expected as. So this is definitely more of
Hmm.
a it's still more of a traditional film, but it's definitely got a lot of elements going for it. So I
Yeah.
hope audiences are able to attach to this and kind of get to see the Filippo brothers work because you can so easily see their style in the movie, and I'm so happy about it.
Yeah, I think one thing I really love about their work is just how punchy everything is. Like,
Hmm.
God, I mean, it leads back to the sound design, but everything just has so much weight to it.
Hmm.
And then you can even tell that with like a lot of their early YouTube videos. There's this one where KSI is headbutting one of the Filippo brothers, and every headbutt is there's just so much crunch and weight to it, and a
Yeah.
lot of that's due to the camera work and sound
Hmm.
design. It's a great.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. Like just horror movies in general, kind of don't. It's not even like I think not even to their fault entirely. They just don't put enough
Mhm.
emphasis on the sound design because
Yeah,
the
exactly.
crunchiness of it and the squishiness of it and the sound of the blood splatter and stuff that has
Hmm.
that puts so much more weight on like the terror of it. I think. And I think they need to
Exactly.
realize that. That's why I think Skinnamarink was basically a sound movie, to be honest. So,
Yeah,
and uh,
exactly.
and that's of course a different beast because it's more analog and it's a different style of movie entirely. But
Mhm.
it's still sound design in horror movies it's so important. It's half the battle. Like you can make anything look
Exactly.
scary, but if you can catch people off guard with the sound, that's what really scares. At least for me, that's what really scares me.
Yeah. I also want to ask, did you have any complaints with Talk to Me?
Really? I had there was one thing. Um, I think I put it on my letterbox review. I can't remember exactly what it was. I ended up giving the movie an 8 out of 10. What score did you give it?
I also gave it an 8.
Yeah. Um, and it's kind of weird because there's nothing particularly that really detracts from the movie. I really don't have any complaints with it. I just I guess it's for me horror movie can only go so far most of the time with how
Yeah.
connected you can be to a character because they're in constant like terrible situations, and you're always on the edge of your seat on whether they're going to live or die because you don't know. I think just
Hmm.
from that perspective of just that storytelling, it makes the audience less connected to characters because like it's not like a Marvel movie. They can always come back. In a horror movie, once they're dead, like they're dead. So it's so much
Yeah.
harder to connect with characters. And I still think they're done really well in Talk to Me. I have no complaints with them. It's just at the end of
Hmm.
the day, I can only be so connected to the characters. Um,
Yeah.
and I still like them. There's nothing wrong with them. I just don't. There's really no good way to make it better. I just an 8 out of 10 is just kind of what I landed on. I had a really fun time. I thought it was really well
Hmm.
done. But there's nothing about the movie that really wowed me or took me,
Hmm.
really. I just think it was a really solid experience that they nailed. There was nothing about it that pushed
Yeah.
the boundaries, in my opinion.
I would say did that much harm done to a kid kind of push the
Yeah,
boundaries because like even with it um the performance of that little kid in it is so underperformed,
that's
and
true.
also the bite itself was kind of goofy, and so I think it's cool that they did it in it, but it was so underperformed, whereas this movie the performance is like insane,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Like it
just
actually.
seeing that much damage,
Mhm. Like it's really brutal. Like seriously,
Mhm.
go watch the movie. Like it's
Yeah.
it's crazy, but it's so cool.
Mhm.
It's so good. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I could agree with that. They definitely pushed the boundary of like how much harm a child is in a horror movie like this. But
Mhm.
other than that though, like there was nothing filmmaking wise that pushed the boundaries. It's more just about them, like the directors, Raka Raka. Like
Yeah.
we both grew up with those videos, with those old Ronald McDonald killing kids, but like you could tell they didn't want to make concessions with that. I think that was their main thing when they were talking about how they didn't want to concede to a
Mhm.
bigger studio to make their film easier. Um,
Exactly.
it's about their creative vision, and their vision has always been, let's kill kids. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you could see they wear that on their sleeve with those Ronald McDonald videos. I still love
Mhm.
one of the most classic YouTube videos, in my opinion, is still the Ronald McDonald kills everyone at the playground.
Yeah, that's a
It
classic.
it goes so hard to like even back then, though they were so well
Mhm.
made. Like
Yeah.
yeah, they're doing a great job, and I'm so excited to see their other movies. I think they have the
Mhm.
potential to be some of my favorite directors if they continue doing what they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
because I already have loved them growing up, and now they're making a Street Fighter movie too. That's insane. That's so exciting.
I'm very hyped.
I don't think
Like,
I think
because
that
I saw their Street Fighter skit. It's great.
Yeah, that might be one of my most anticipated movies going forward here. Like after the 5 minutes, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm always on a new one for the adaptation train for video games because I think those are going to start coming in waves now. Like people were scared to do video
Mhm.
game adaptations for the longest time. They're going to start coming every couple months now here. Um,
Yeah.
like the Borderlands movie is coming out next year, I think, as well. So
Oh wow.
yeah, that movie's going to
Forgot
be
about that one.
that movie's gonna be pretty crazy too. We'll see how that one
Yeah.
turns out. I don't know anything about that series, but I'm still gonna probably see that one. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, Street Fighter movie by the Raka Raka Boys. That's just so exciting to me. I'm so hyped to see that.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, uh, Talk to Me was great. There's nothing.
Mhm.
It's kind of hard to say why it's just an 8 out of 10 because there's nothing wrong with it. I just think it's just because
Mhm.
of my taste. There's nothing I could have done to do better, but.
I think I think it's one of those movies to me where the actual like story itself and it's not I will say that it's not like the most inventive movie in terms of its story, but what makes it so great to me is just the execution of the entire project. because it does follow a lot of horror movie cliches, and it does just follow a lot of horror movie dumb decisions, but it's just the execution of everything is so clean and just something you don't see a lot these days. And again, I did really connect with the characters and the performances. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not an insanely original movie. It does feel like an A24 horror movie with a lot of grief themes, but it's just the execution is so well done.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm just looking at my review here. Yeah, I don't think I said it in here, but just yeah, everything about it was great. It's just such a original horror film done in such a such a done such a way that's like um original, but like it doesn't concede for anything in its originality. Like it's an original idea, but it uses it to its fullest extent and has good elements around it, like the direction, the writing, the sound design, all that stuff. Like you can have a good idea and not execute on it very well, and then you just have a bad movie. But so yeah, that's what this movie did well. It took its good idea and then it really ran with it. So yeah, Talk to Me was great. I'm super excited to see what comes next for them. A24 horror continues to be some of the best horror in the industry, which is not shocking. But yeah, just really, really exciting stuff. I'm really happy about that. That movie. Excited for it to do well. Excited for people to discover them as filmmakers and stuff. And I really just overall just glad that more online content creators are moving to the mainstream. That's just the most exciting part about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, very exciting stuff there. Any other topics you want to talk about?
Oh, I guess I also should say that I thought the score, like the original score for Talk to Me, also just kind of wasn't that good. I wasn't huge on it.
Yeah, I don't really remember any of the music from the movie, but to be honest, that's not really a big deal to me because it was more about the sound design anyway. Well, in my opinion, most horror movies don't really need music anyway, for the most part.
Yeah, exactly.
It's probably the one genre of anything that I think it can be very minimal with its music, and that's why when it is done well, it's done very well. Like early Silent Hill uses its ambient music so expertly. So like those early PS1 horror games use it in such a good way. That's like a good example of how to do like a score in a horror project well. You got to be minimal with it, and making it memorable though. Being minimal is hard, so I understand why it wouldn't have been the best part of the movie, which is fine. But yeah, Skinamarink actually, I think that was one of the strongest parts. They used the music well in that movie, but that was
that was great.
That was more so because that movie had to have it. It was part of it was actually like kind of a part of the plot to an extent. Like the whole use of the old cartoons and stuff like that. Again, I need to rewatch that movie because there's a lot about that movie I think I kind of neglected the first time we watched it, and I definitely think I should watch it again because I can appreciate more about it now. But the use of like the copyright-free cartoons, old cartoons and stuff. So I think that's such a cool idea, and the way they loop music around, but they still have the effects over it. Just really, that movie was made on like a super small. Was it like $10,000 or something?
I believe it was like 10,000.
It's such an incredibly small budget. That movie I need to revisit because there's so much more going on in that, and I think because of how much money it made too, it's going to catch on in a way. So
yeah, I'm excited to see what the director does next for sure.
I mean, who knows? Even like something like the Walton Files with their fourth entry could kind of be inspired by that and be like very high quality like it. I think if I Did you ever see that series?
I haven't gotten around to it. I know that like I was planning to watch it just like all in one night, but then I just decided to watch Raka Raka instead because I've been on like a
Yeah,
huge binge of all their videos
yeah,
before I saw Talk to Me.
yeah. I gotta go back and watch old Rocket Rocket videos. The only one I think that I know is hard to find now is the Five Nights on Sesame Street one, right?
Yeah, there's some really like high quality re-uploads, but for the most part, yeah, the YouTube's been trying to get rid of it for a while.
Which yeah, obviously makes sense. That's probably the
Mhm.
most extra one out of all their videos. Just like
Yeah,
that.
it's very brutal.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. It's offensive. It's yeah.
Hmm.
Everything that they could have thought of went into that one.
I
Uh,
loved that one. That's probably my favorite of their videos, honestly.
yeah, that doesn't shock me. Honestly, it reminds me of like it's like a mix between it kind of feels like that kind of gives me Ari Aster vibes actually the more I think about that upload. Uh
Hmm.
just kind of I don't know, especially Beau is Afraid, which we should talk about that movie again. I want to rewatch Beau is Afraid because that's still one of my favorite movies of the year. So,
Yeah, it was great.
yeah. We'll talk about, more films later on. There's a we've seen a lot this year already that we can go back and talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, two great movies that we've seen recently. A lot of fun. There will be more. Uh, I think. Oh, like oh, you know what we should do is we should have like two like well, I don't know if we can do that though because you didn't see them all. I was gonna say we should have two like Ghibli inspired episodes where like we kind of talk about the ones we've seen in theaters. I know you haven't seen them all though. Um,
Yeah, there's a couple I missed.
yeah, well, we can talk about the ones we will see because I know we're seeing. You've seen Have you seen Princess Mononoke before?
No, I have it on Blu-ray though.
No. So this will be our first experience, or both of our first experience with that movie, and I'm very excited for that one. So
Same. That's probably one of the highest rated ones, I think, right?
yeah, it's
Aside from like
a
Spirited Away.
after Spirited Away, it's probably like most people's favorite. So
Hmm.
I'm very excited to see that one. I think that one's going to be really great.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think though that that's about it for this pilot episode of Untitled Podcast with Daniel and Adrian. You know,
Yeah, there
uh,
we go.
uh, name is pending. We'll probably come up with something better, hopefully. Uh,
Yeah.
but uh, but I think that's it for now. I think this was a successful first episode.
Yeah, I think it was not very awkward and we kept the conversation going pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Once I learned to shut up, of course.
Nah, it was fun, bro. I think we have to get a guest on here like
Yeah,
June or
we
something.
definitely gotta
That'd
have
be
a June.
hilarious.
June doesn't want to give me her Twitter though, which is fair.
Uh
But
yeah, she wouldn't give me hers either.
we'll convince her at some point because that'll be she could
Mhm.
talk about what was the random movie she just put
Real
up
Steel.
real steel.
Nine
Never
out of ten.
never even heard of the movie before.
I've heard of it, but like all I've ever heard is like really just like it's all right, you know. That's all I've ever heard about it.
Just comes in with the real steel review.
Yeah,
It's really funny. Hmm.
I would love to watch it, just like debate with her about it.
Yeah, oh, we should do that. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I would love that.
And rewatch RRR as well and tell you why you're wrong and that the movie is the best movie ever.
Why? Why I'm wrong? Yeah, fair enough.
You're gonna be like the Sardona cast, and we're gonna bully you off like Ralph.
Dude, I'm so sad about Ralph leaving.
All right. I've yet to actually watch that podcast. Probably will at some point, but
It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I love
all
it.
right. Well, that's good then. I think that's a wrap right there. All
Mhm.
right. Next time we're getting a Squarespace honey sponsored. It's confirmed. It's definitely gonna happen. So
Ah, there we go.
Mr. Beast will sponsor us with his burgers or something. So
Mr.
all
Beast.
right, pretty good. I might look into seeing how we can. I might look into like once we have a name for this and stuff, I might see if I can dedicate a YouTube channel to this or something as well.
Yeah, and also Spotify too. A lot of people will go on
Yeah,
Spotify for
that's definitely
podcasts.
true. So I'll look into
Mhm.
that as well. But for now, that's about it. All right. I think that's a wrap. See ya. See you later.
Awesome. See you later, man.
All right, bye. See you in the next episode where we talk about Minecraft.
Yo.
No, not yet. Not until Jason Momoa graces the screen. All right.